Hey, what's up, Potters? It's Word for Thought Pod, and this is our third podcast. I'm Nicole, and I'm here with special guest host
Disha.
So today we're going to be discussing India's Citizenship Amendment Act. So basically what this is a new act that was passed on December 11th of 2019 by the Parliament of India, which allows Indian citizenship for Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, and Christians from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. However, Muslims were not included or even mentioned in this act.
So the whole thing about having Hindu derivative religions getting an advantage basically comes from they only have to work for 6 years in India to be able to apply for a citizenship, while Muslims and other religions would have to work the normal amount of time, which would be 11 years.
So this is extremely controversial just because this is the first time religion was used as a criterion for citizenship in India. But basically this was just justified by saying that Muslims are majorities in all three countries, being Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. So they will not have encountered as much discrimination as other minority religions, as the Sikhs that they have granted easier citizenship to. So I want to get this completely clear. So to my understanding, this applies only to refugees that have entered India before December 31st, 2014. Is that true?
So I'm pretty sure that's true, but it also comes from a large part about being from the divide that happened between Pakistan and India, and refugees or people who got separated, so Hindus who got stuck in Pakistan, who apparently might have not been treated well, who could come back on a refugee status and eventually get citizenship.
What do you mean by come back and become refugees again? I thought this was only for refugees.
So according to some news channels that are being played in India, so like I said, the divide. So people who got stuck there were originally from India, and because of whatever hardships or from the war and stuff that happened, they got separated from India itself. So those people can come back as refugees. Yeah.
So basically you don't have to be a refugee in order to get easier citizenship, or you do?
It's not even about being a refugee, really. It's really about what religion you are. And if it's Hindu, so if you're Buddhist or a Sikh or something.
In your opinion, do you think that religion is something you could be basing something so huge on?
So I don't think religion should ever be a factor into something that's related to country, especially because they were talking about wanting to increase their GDP. So getting more immigrants doesn't really seem like a top priority in an already overpopulated country, in my opinion.
So there's a lot of rioting going on in India right now, and this is a lot, most of the people that are doing this are Muslim Indians, because although they aren't directly affected by the act because they weren't even mentioned, obviously, but they are being faced with the possibility of being reduced to second-class citizens. Do you think that's true?
I don't actually know a ton about that, but I do know that it's not only them who are rioting. There's also the party who put the act in place is the BJP party. Yeah, and basically there's another party who wants to be elected, who doesn't have as many votes in Senate, who is also rioting, and they're also putting forward a lot of protesters under their name. Yeah. To try and win and to just go against what the BJP party is saying.
So you're saying that a lot of the rioting and all this backlash that it's getting isn't necessarily because people believe it's wrong, but because a political party is trying to use it against what's the party that's currently ruling?
BJP.
So another political party is trying to make BJP look worse by getting protesters for it and rioting against it?
Yeah, so essentially there's a big political part about it, and there's also, of course, Hindu Muslims who also have the potential to get deported if their immigration wasn't actually legal.
So, a lot of riots are happening or like really escalating in northeastern India in places like the state of Assam, which is 34% Muslim. So, so basically, wait, does India consider Muslim a majority or like one of the majority religions in their country or not?
No, it's not.
So, in your opinion, what do you think India should do in order to achieve their goal of raising their GDP?
I think, frankly, they shouldn't be allowing more immigrants into the country, especially since the country is already so overly populated and there is so much poverty happening right now, and they can't take care of the people they already have. So they really should not be bringing in more when there's so many surrounding countries that could do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should be supporting your own people before you start supporting others. But do you feel like India sort of owes this to people? Because about what you were saying about how like so many Indians were like people, Indians with minority religions were like, I guess we can say trapped and then discriminated against in other countries such as like Pakistan or Bangladesh. Do you think that India might owe it to them?
I don't think the country owes them anything necessarily. I think it's more so to do all the issues that are happening with the Citizenship Amendment Act are related to religion, and I don't think that should ever be a factor in political matters.
So, you said something about how they were like treated poorly in different countries. Do you think, like you're saying that it shouldn't have anything to do about religion, but do you think that Muslims are treated poorly in those countries?
I honestly don't really, because they are Muslim majority countries, so I don't understand why that would happen. I know there's a lot of terrorism, an example, Pakistan, and I know it does affect a lot of Muslims as well and their families, but I don't think necessarily that the religion is like being mistreated. Yeah.
So if Muslims aren't being mistreated and all these other minority religions are being mistreated in those countries, why do you think it's such a crime to, like, I guess, discriminate or just exclude Muslims from this act?
Because the Muslims that are being discriminated from the act are included in the Muslims who already live in India if they've come illegally. Like, example, they can have stayed there for, 10 years or something and get deported. So, and that's like uprooting someone's entire life.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. I think that's pretty messed up. Your family is from India, right?
Yeah, they are.
So do you think that your family and the fact that they're from India affects your view on the subject in any way?
Most definitely, because my family is very patriarchal. Patriotic. Yeah. They're really pro-Hinduism in India, and frankly, like, I don't really think they consider the other point of view when it comes to Indian politics because they just love their country.
So, do you think that they would be against this act or not?
No, they're in support of the act completely.
Don't they want India's GDP to be higher, though? Like, do they not see the downsides of this?
I think they do, but they think that... Oh, God. Okay. Okay. I don't know how to put this in my card. Also, my parents are kind of really blindsided by their patriotism to India, so they don't really view the point of views of other religions such as Islam.
So, just to clarify, you're against this act, though, right?
I am against the act. My parents are not.
So, how do they react to that?
To me being against it, very, very poorly.
What do you mean by that?
Lots of anger.
Oh my God. Want to, like, give an example of that?
Okay, so once my dad told me that he thought Pakistan was a terrorist country and that if I didn't support his point of views about it, I could leave our house. So yeah, very blindsided by their views on religion. Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you felt convinced by your parents, or do you always feel like you had a very independent point of view when you like did your own research?
Regarding what exactly?
Indian conflicts, I guess, because your parents seem to be very like patriotic, or as you like to say, patriarchal, or what did you say? Anyways, just like with any Indian conflict, do you feel like you do enough of your own research?
Yeah, because my parents are usually very biased about the ways they think of things, especially regarding Islam and anything related to Muslim culture. So I always rather like find out about it myself before forming an actual point of view. Yeah, especially like things with like Kashmir or even the Citizenship Amendment Act.
What about Kashmir?
Kashmir as in like how there was a lot of conflict between Pakistan and India there, because part of it is owned by Pakistan, part of it is owned by India. And there was some conflict with Indian soldiers and people living there, and about the whole curfew thing that's still going on.
I want to get into a little bit more detail about this curfew thing because I'm completely lost.
Okay, so I don't exactly remember the entire story about it, but from what I do remember, Kashmir has always been partially owned by India and partially owned by Pakistan. Majority of it is India's though, and Pakistan never really helped their part of Kashmir, as in like giving them resources and aid, while India's part did. And especially when there was flooding there, a lot of Indian soldiers came there to like help people and like help rebuild homes and stuff. But not like now recently, but a couple months ago, there was this whole terrorist attack thing about some terrorists from Pakistan influencing people who are young people in Kashmir to throw stones and attack the Indian soldiers, like through phone calls and such. So the Indian government decided to put this curfew on parts of Kashmir, so they cut off their internet connection, I believe, and might be their electricity and water. I don't know about water, but electricity too.
So the soldiers that they were trying to throw rocks at, are those the ones that were helping them with the flood, or are they just...
Yeah.
Damn. And did they actually ever convince the Indians to do it?
What do you mean?
Like, did they ever actually end up throwing rocks at them or not?
No, yeah. They threw tons of rocks at them. That's even a large part of the protest happening with the Citizenship Amendment Act. Most of the rioters, a lot of them they're called stone pelters, and they literally throw stones at the police, which is the only part of that whole thing that I think is really messed up on like the people's side, because they're literally harassing the police force who are just doing their duty because of their beliefs, which obviously it's good to stand up for yourself, but I don't really think violence is the answer.
So, to clarify, India and Pakistan were once the same country, right? Or not?
Okay, I'm not completely sure about its history, but I'm pretty sure, yeah. And then a bunch of stuff happened with, like, British rule and stuff, and there was, like, this huge divide, and then stuff related to, like, Gandhi and stuff.
So the reason why this is even happening is because a lot of Indians got stuck in Pakistan, and did a lot of Pakistanis get stuck in India?
I think so, but I'm not completely sure about that.
So you don't know if Pakistan did anything about it, right?
Yeah, I don't really.
Okay. When did the split happen? Like, do you think that your parents don't like, or they're supporting India's side right now just because they don't like Pakistan, maybe because of the split? Or has there always been, like, some sort of bias against Pakistanis in India?
The split happened, like, a very, very long time ago. Like, my parents weren't alive, even. I'm not sure. Maybe my grandparents were. But it's always been, like, this thing, especially since the split, even before the split, about, like, the two religions being against each other. Like, Islam and Hinduism. It just always has been a thing, and especially for a lot of traditionalists, it's still a thing. And there's even like these festival things, almost not festivals, but at the gate between India and Pakistan, like every single day there'll be like a flag ceremony where the soldiers like go against each other, and they're like really aggressive, and it's all very like to try and show your power and which country's better.
So do you have any sort of like negative bias towards Pakistan like the rest of your family does, or it seems to, and like the rest of India?
Slightly, but not in the same ways. I think for me personally, it's more so based on the fact that I know there's a lot of terrorism that happens there, but I don't agree with what my dad said, for example, about it being a terrorist country, because I don't think everyone in that country is a terrorist or is responsible for what terrorists in that country are doing.
So what do you think the solution to this would be?
To what?
To like all this rioting and like the conflicts, because the Citizenship Amendment Act, the only reason why there's such a controversy about it is because they're excluding Muslims from it. So how do you think that this could be solved? Do you think that there will always be a bias against Muslims in India?
Honestly, yeah, because if you even watch an Indian news channel, they're already biased against Pakistan. Like, literally almost every Indian political leader who is Hindu is biased against Pakistan and Muslims and, like, Islam in general.
So you don't think that there's going to be a solution, or you don't think it can be solved?
I think it could be solved with people not making religion a part of political ordeals, because it really shouldn't be. Yeah.
Anything other than that, though? Like, you just don't think that India will ever not hate Pakistan?
Honestly, yeah, I don't. They were literally going to start a war a little while ago, because there was this terrorist attack that happened in some part of India, and India was going to retaliate, and I'm pretty sure they might have. And in fact, Pakistan also, like, held hostage a bunch of Indian soldiers. But it's still, like, there is no peace between them, really. Yeah.
So we've mainly been talking about Pakistan and India, but what about, like, Bangladesh and Afghanistan? Do you really know anything about their relations with India?
Those countries aren't really talked about as much in the news. I know that there's stuff with terrorist groups such as the Taliban in Afghanistan, but I'm not sure about anything else, really. Yeah.
So that's all we have for this podcast. Thank you so much, Disha, for being on it. And stay tuned on my Instagram for new updates and for new podcasts, and to stay engaged with us. And if you have any more questions or any questions at all, please feel free to DM me at Word for Thought Pod on Instagram. Thank you so much, Disha.
Thanks, Nicole.